Okay, meeting come to order. Soil Conservation Commission, President, myself, Kevin Gallagher, Fire Chief, Roger Gonzalez, Selectman, Mark Senorizio, Planning Board, Mary Lee Kelly, Conservation, and Dan Menard, absent. Okay, can we have a motion to open the meeting?
Make that motion.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes, and this is going to be audio and video taped. Okay. We're going to start off with correspondence. Discussion, updates from PJ Keating regarding improvements, asphalt plant, trench drains, status on reclamation plan, review of matters presented, votes may be taken.
I can jump in. This is just a
Yep.
recap from where we kind of left off in March. And there's a whole lot of new faces in the crowd. So there's been a little change in PJ Keating, even though we've, as the staff, we've been introduced to him. Come in front of you for the first time.
That would be good if they give their names for our log here. Start
Sure.
with this gentleman.
Rob Robinson, VP of Aggregates for PJ Keating. So I'll go after the aggregate side of it, the quarries.
We all know you, Jeff.
Oh, you're gonna say it again?
Yes.
Jeff Oleg, PJ Keating, Acushnet Quarry Manager. Carl Turgeon, for maintenance manager of aggregates.
Andy Brewer, VP of Construction and Asphalt. And Doug Vigno, Manager of Environmental Compliance.
Okay, so when we left off, there was a couple of different things. We had modified our application. We had changed some prices. The board had asked about their reclamation plan as we have it here, but their final, what is the actual plan when they close the quarry down? The board had also asked about bond, about increasing the bond, and then taking a look at this plan and seeing if the bond was related to the actual whatever was going to take to actually close the quarry. In the meantime, they have upped the bond. The board had asked that to go from the $768,000 to $1 million. They have provided a plan. You have all that in your package.
Yep.
You know, the final site and what it would look like according to them at this point. So really what we're here to talk about, and also sign their application if they're that was the change, one of the changes that we talked about back there. The application was changed, the permit was changed. Finally, it's all come together. You have that in front of you to sign tonight. They've given us they paid the fee, the $16,000 fee. It's just really at this point bringing it all together. I know they have some other things that they're planning on doing out there that they've mentioned to me in regards to controlling some of the dust, and they've done some other little things. I'll let them speak to that, about what they have. So,
Did you have this on record that after the closure of this pit, I know I'm not gonna be around, so whoever picks up the handles from here on, that this is gonna be basically used, open pit for a water reservoir for the communities after they do their cleanup? Is that on a statement also?
I don't know if this is, at this point, it's the closure plan in front of you. I know, I think that we've talked about this in the past,
Yeah.
that there was some sort of discussion about
This was
that.
discussed in front of the selectmen,
Yep.
Jim Rieger and
So
Jack
we-
Freeman.
Certainly put that into the record and write that in some sort of way where ultimately I think,
Jim Rieger was
turned
president
over
of
to the
PJ
town.
Keating at the time.
Mhm.
And Jack Freeman was superintendent of the pit over here in Acushnet, and now Jeff is our superintendent. So,
Bob, maybe go to them for their comments on what this is and what they're doing and what the plan is, and,
fine with
I mean,
me.
I'd like this from my perspective, I'd like to hear, just their comments on what they're doing and
what this is all about and the bond and the go-forward plan, I think would be.
This is an important fact.
I know it is, I wanna talk about that.
For water, for the
Absolutely.
communities, I mean, this place here can generate enough water to supply Fairhaven, Acushnet, probably New Bedford. I mean, you're talking, I couldn't even count the numbers, billions of gallons that this place can produce, you know. I'm very much concerned about the future, because water someday is gonna be a big problem, you know, and I'm sure you fellas know that, and we're not gonna be, maybe Jeff, he's the youngest kid here. But I mean, I don't think, 50, 60 years from now, I don't think none of us will be around, so. I'm just looking out for the future of the taxpayers and the people that's been surrounding the town here. And I don't think that's no big deal for Keating, or if they do ever sell out to another company, and this would go along with the other company. The agreement that we would make with Keating right now. I just wanna make that clear, that you people know this, okay? I don't know if
Yeah, I'll speak to it.
I don't know if the upper head knows about it, which they should know. They should have memos and letters, and, if I have to call Jim Rieger in to verify this, or Jack Freeman, he's gonna have to come in from up there, and Jack's gonna have to come in from Florida. I don't care.
Yeah, well, I'll preface the statements with the fact that the quarry will be operating probably for another 80 years or so. So it's difficult to say what the future holds that far out. So the plan before you really is, it's naturally will refill with groundwater and rainwater, like all quarries do. We wouldn't classify it as a reservoir or a potable drinking water supply, at this time. It would need to be treated if you were going to do that. So the water is there to be used, but it's not like a true reservoir where you have an inlet and an outlet where you're constantly getting, a lot of watershed area drainage into it. So it really, given its location and whatnot, it's really going to be fed primarily by groundwater and rainwater. So the pulling a lot of water out of it, 1 million gallons per day and whatnot, although it will hold a lot of water, it's going to drain down quicker than your typical fed, lake
We
or
do
something
have a
like
lot of
that.
springs running through that quarry.
Yeah, no, there's definitely,
90% of that is fed by spring, because summertime you don't get no rain,
yeah.
and you're always pumping water out, so.
Yeah, yeah. Well, I can't speak to the hydrology of what it would be in the future, and I would pass on that. But the plan before you really is to leave the property. All the existing facilities would be removed from the site. We're really calling it a passive recreational area, having some fields out there, be it soccer fields. Potentially you could have basketball courts. You could have tennis courts. Right now, it's just kind of like basic recreational fields, ample parking for parents to go and watch their kids' games and things like that. The roadway system really from the front to the back will remain as it is today in the future, and that's how you would access to the back of the quarry. Other than passive recreation, and allowing the quarry to fill up naturally, then that's what we have in mind. And obviously, quarries are dangerous places, and you don't want to encourage folks to go into the water. So the entire rim of the quarry would be fenced off, signage would be put up, and it would be made very clear that there's no swimming allowed in the quarry.
I guess not.
Yeah. So, in that vein, yes, as a storage facility for future use, and with a treatment at the end of it, there's the potential that could happen. But we're certainly not proposing water treatment, that we would be involved with.
Yeah. Well, they were talking at one time, the town, about doing that as a dump, kind of put that as a dump, because it infiltrate into the water system, into your springs and whatever you got, so that's a no-no, and the town voted years ago at town meeting that we could never have another dump in town, because we had problems with a dump up top, up north of us. So right now, nobody can have a dump, no private dump, nothing. That's why sometimes you guys put up a sign over there that says dump. And I get a hold of the superintendent, I say, get that name and dump out of here, because there's no dumps allowed in town. So they took care of all the signs saying dump here, and, you know, it's not a dump. Guys see a dump, they want to be dumping crap. You don't want no crap in that place, you know, so.
No, the only thing that would be in the quarry would be, naturally occurring, what's there now. I mean, you know, the stone, you know, potentially, I don't know, I mean, it would be, nothing that wasn't taken out of the quarry would be any different, you know, wouldn't be put in, so.
I don't
If it was
think so.
taken out, then, you know, it's conceivable down the road that, you know, it could be used for some storage, but, and I'll let Rob speak to that, if that's even the case at all, but we just don't know at this point. We're not putting anything in the quarry, like the silt or anything like that at this time, and that's, but
Well, your
would
silt-
that potentially be revisited at some point? I don't know.
Your silt pile in the back, that's
Yeah.
natural stone back there. It's all
Yeah,
washed.
everything's,
They
yeah.
take the silt out of the sand, I don't know if these people know, but they make their own sand to run the asphalt plant. And the stone dust is a byproduct of theirs. And they use that sand, the stone dust, and they screen it, wash it, and they make their own sand. If you go in there, you see a big sand pile, this thing's continuously making sand, but you get that real fine silt. That goes in the pond way out in the back, way out to the end of your property.
Correct.
But your anticipation is 80 years down the road for closure, somewhere in that vicinity?
Yeah, it's a ways out.
Go ahead.
Yeah, so, the conversation we had last time, I don't think any of you were here, Jeff, I'm not even sure if you were here for it last time, but, it goes back 6 months, I think, you know, what we said is we wanted a closure plan for the quarry, and then we wanted, you know, I mean, you plan on operating it for 80 years, you may or may not be around to operate it for 80 years, and things that you don't control, so, you know, we'd sort of said, you know, if the quarry's not operated as a quarry and it's gotta be converted to this, you know, what is the plan to do it and what does it cost? And that cost should be backed by a bond. And, you know, I'm not sure what this shows, but I guess I was expecting a narrative that says we'll put fences up, we'll build soccer fields,
There's notes on there that do indicate that, so.
yeah, I've got the wrong, I should have put different eyes in, but, I mean, I'm not trying to be sarcastic, but it's just, this is very difficult to tell what this says, and I guess, you know, the bond was increased from $780 to $1 million. I don't think $1 million builds 3 soccer fields, if that's the plan, so I don't know what $1 million does with this, I don't see $1 million doing this. So I don't know how you tie $1 million into what I see here.
If they don't
It'll fill with
perform,
it'll fill with water, I get that, that's probably free, but the rest of it's gonna cost something, and $1 million doesn't do anything anymore, and it doesn't do what's represented on this piece of paper.
okay, they're just showing a proposal what they would do.
Yep.
But the bond is just a performance bond. If they do renege on something, then we can jump to the bond.
Yeah, renege on, no, the performance bond, the discussion we had was we want the performance bond to cover closure of the quarry when they're not operating, if they walk away and they're not operating the quarry anymore, we don't want them, we don't want a
The
big hole in
gentleman
the
just
ground.
says that he would take all the structures down and clean up the place. Am I
And we're
right or
looking
wrong?
for a
It's true.
bond to back that, was the conversation we had about.
Right,
Well, that-
if I could, I agree with Selectman Cabral. I would feel more comfortable with a document that links this proposal to a cost. Like, we've got $1 million bond here, but we don't know if that will equal the cost of this proposed plan.
$4 million project,
Right.
right there.
And
can't
we talk
use-
about, if we talk about protecting future generations 80 years from now, I think that's where we need to do our due diligence to make sure that what we agree to as the closure plan is covered by the amount in the financial document.
And I mean, and the other piece, just further to that, the bond, I really wanna have our council review the bond, because the bond, and the bond goes back to something that was issued by Capaldi, and you're not Capaldi, is PJ
Yeah.
Keating Capaldi?
It was Capaldi.
Is PJ Keating is Capaldi, so there's a direct
No, they
line
bought
between,
out Capaldi.
is Capaldi PJ Keating, or part of PJ?
I don't know about that.
No, Capaldi was an acquisition of PJ.
So at Capaldi, there's a direct line from Capaldi to PJ Keating, alright, so that's probably fine. But I guess I want to make sure that this bond does indeed, I'm confused about what this does and what the bond really backs. I want to make sure that the bond would really back this plan, because that's not really clear to me. And I'm trying to work cooperatively with you, and maybe I'm coming across aggressively, and that's not the intention. I want to work cooperatively with you, but I'm not, what we've got here today, I'm not sure is what we asked for last time. And, the goal is if you all walk away for reasons you control or don't control, and we've got a big hole in the ground, we want the ability to secure that hole in the ground and take down whatever's left. And maybe that never happens, but, we've got a bond for $1 million. I'm not sure I understand what that bond for $1 million really does for us. And I want that interpreted, and I prefer that, we weren't just updating a bond that's 20 years old, that we were getting a fresh document with language appropriate to 2019 and not language appropriate to 1988, referencing a company that doesn't exist anymore, that's Capaldi, that's part of Keating. Let's have a Keating bond, if it's Keating is the company now.
Well, we have the bonding, our bonding company is called Marsh, and we pay them to set up the bond. And that information, I thought, was in the application, that they're the ones who back the bond. But if there's additional information along those lines, we can certainly get it.
It may be
from the
fine,
bonding company.
I'd like to have it with you, it may be fine.
Yeah, and I understand your point about.
What I've seen, I'm
pricing it
scratching
out.
my head a little bit.
It's just I think a lot of it has to do with this memorandum of understanding in conjunction with the fact that it was originally made out to Tilcon, and how that all intertwines with now the new bond. And this is still calling out the 768 number. And if the memorandum of understanding is what's tying it all together, I don't know that this board or this commission has agreed to that memorandum of understanding, which was always a little bit gray about how that came to be, because I think it was some sort of discussion, and so, as I understand it, the best that I understand it from the past, there was some sort of dispute about how you guys interacted with our soil bylaws.
Okay,
And that's how that came up.
okay.
Because you didn't know if you fit right in there, and then from Copeland and Page, you guys seem to fit right in. So that's how I think that memorandum of understanding came about years ago. Was a dispute, if you will, between what our regs are versus what you perceive, how you fit into that.
Okay.
So just,
Were we ever provided the, what Copeland and Page had made their basis of decision on?
I don't recall.
yeah, if it's anything recent, I would say no.
Okay. Well, we'd appreciate that as well, and, I understand, I mean, I don't wanna speak for my bosses here, but I understand the point about, maybe the memorandum of understanding is a little outdated and whatnot. We weren't present for the March 19th meeting, so, you're absolutely correct. This has been what's been going on for year after year after year, okay? And so now things have changed now to the extent that these things need to be updated, then we're more than willing to work with you to do that.
Do you own the real estate? Not you, PJ Keating?
Yes.
PJ Keating, so you own the underlying real estate and operate the business and all of it? So you're
Yes.
all, okay, all right, we were confused about that too. Okay, thank you.
Yeah. And we can do an analysis of the price for that. I don't think it's a $4 million project, with all due
I'm guessing,
respect.
I shouldn't have said.
We have fencing, certainly the fencing, the construction of the fields, and whatnot. What's that?
Removal of plant, restoration of the grounds.
Yeah.
And that's the kind of thing that we've done in the past elsewhere.
Yeah.
But what's that worth? And I'm not, in
It's worth, in 80 years' time, it's worth what it is
80 years' time.
to the
What's it worth
people of
today?
the town. I mean, today, that's a difficult number to put on, but we can certainly look at that.
Yeah.
Yes, but
That's what you do.
I mean, we would remove the equipment, we would level the area off and prepare that, and then, as Doug says, we put the fence around the area, and we let the water backfill the quarry, and that's basically there. I mean, it's not a massive task to do that for that area.
Now, you guys are proposing to put these ball fields in and all. Are you people gonna put the ball fields in? You got it proposed here, soccer
I think they were
fields.
just green areas that we proposed to put forward, weren't they?
Yeah.
They were green areas to be used for what application? Whether they're ball fields as such, or whether they're, I mean, you say ball fields today, is it all weather, is it, what is it? I don't know at the moment, that's what we're saying. So we gave reclamation areas where people could go to with greenfield areas.
So you guys would make these
That was,
areas
that was
green?
part of it, as
Like-
far as I believe.
Soccer fields are
It would
green.
be a green flat
Can I
area.
make a suggestion here? What would it cost to close it tomorrow? Do you have the people that would come up with a price like that? You're gone, you close tomorrow, what's it gonna cost for this
If
operation?
you take off, that's the whole point of bond, right? If you guys,
Right.
something happens and you go and all the equipment's still there, everything's still there, you haven't taken anything out, or you've taken pieces of it out, you know, based on economy, based on whatever.
I don't have that price.
I don't think so.
Yeah,
No.
yeah, but I mean,
Just saying,
really,
if
that's
you were
what
to
the
close
bond
it,
is.
Do as you say
If you guys
here,
are in it, it's
but
no
not
big
80
deal.
years down the road.
Right.
Let's say next year or the year after, what today's prices are.
Right.
Whether it's 1 million or 500,000 or 2 million, I
I'm
don't
not gonna
know.
sit here and say we have a price for that, we don't.
Okay.
No.
But, you know, we are heavily invested in this place, and we are very much going forward all the time.
Sure.
So, yes.
Like Joe says, if you guys picked up and took off, left the equipment behind, we'd be in multi-million dollars.
That's what I worry.
You got loaders there that's
Something
worth a
happened.
couple of $1 million to 990, that's what, you know.
Yeah, if
you
we
got
left
two of
everything
them, you got
behind, you'd
988,
be
you
doing
got-
pretty good.
Those
Yeah.
are,
You know what I mean?
I
If they
suspect
just
those
pick
will-
up and go, this town would have a
Definitely
big,
don't.
those will leave when
The
I
good
get
stuff.
back.
I don't
big
think that would happen.
No,
No, I don't think that's the point. I mean, again, if something happens, you know, that is the worst case scenario, that's really what we're looking for the bond for. If you guys stick around, we're just neighbors.
Doesn't none of it matter.
You know, we keep doing what we're doing and you turn it into a beautiful place on your way
Yeah.
out. It's
But I-
beautiful.
I-
But we could, I mean, the value of the equipment, like you say, if we were to fold tomorrow and all those things were left behind and whatnot, the value of that is like far surpasses anything that, you know, you can imagine. So,
I don't
you know, the
think
$1 million,
it's-
we did qualify the $1 million by saying everything will be removed from the site. And, so we didn't,
Does it say that here?
it does, sir.
Okay.
Yes, yes, it does. And sorry that the notes are a little smaller, but there are explanations on the decommissioning plan as to what we would be doing and promising to, and that certainly is removing all facilities from the site. So the $1 million, really, you know, at least when I was looking at it, and maybe perhaps incorrectly, was to, the access road basically exists. The fields would have to be leveled off, soil, you know, we're not saying that they're gonna be astroturf or anything else. We're setting aside some areas for those things. But I would agree, if you went in and you put in the turf that they have in Gillette Stadium, then you're gonna be looking at quite an expensive operation.
Let me go again. So, I mean, I've not been doing this very long with this group, but my understanding's always been, we've all been pretending that we've got a bond in place that restores the facility. And, you know, in the event that you don't operate anymore, that restores the facility, that fences it in, that secures it, and it's our belief that we've got a bond that's supposed to do that. Do you believe that as well, or are we wrong in our understanding?
no, you've got a bond, that's exactly it. You've got a bond
Okay.
there for $1 million that would do what the proposal is at the moment, yes.
Okay, so I guess what I want to understand then is, you know, if we've got to act on that bond, what does it cover? Because if I look at this with my old eyes, I see something that says a proposed soccer athletic field number 3. I'm assuming you're building, or the bond's building, 1, 2, 3 soccer fields is what I see. And it seems like, no, we're not doing that, we're gonna, so I guess I want something that says, this is exactly what the bond's going to cover, and it's possible this says that, but I don't see it. You know, we've got a past behind us, we've got paperwork that's 20 years old. I wanna start fresh with you all, you're fresh, I'm new. Let's get this right, let's make it clear. This is what our bond does, this is what the bond will cover if if we're gone, if we're not in place, and I prefer a fresh bond to one that's a tag on to a 20-year-old document. But I think it needs to start with, this is our reclamation plan, and that's what the bond backs, this is the plan.
Yes.
And I'm not sure if we've got that.
Understood.
We're not gonna build soccer
I think
fields, or we are gonna build
This,
soccer
this,
fields.
well, what we were told was provide us with a decommissioning plan as to what you would foresee the site. We will let you know whether we agree with your decommissioning plan or not. And that was the last thing, when, the previous town administrator was here, is what he said to us was, you tell us what you think your plan should look like, and this is what we're providing. Now, if the town doesn't like it, then
I don't think it's a
that's
question
why
of
we're
liking
here.
it or not. And I agree with what you've said, but I think what we need, the last piece of information we need to know is how much does this decommissioning
I
plan
understand,
cost?
chief, yeah, it cost
You know,
breakdown.
Right.
And who
So,
does
for
what?
instance, you get 11,650 feet of 6-foot high fence with black vinyl coating. That breaks down to $1 million. It's $85 a foot. Is that doable
For the fence?
for the fence?
That $1 million doesn't go very far. And there's evidence of it. I don't know what a fence costs, but
But, you know, 85, so
$1
what
million
is the cost
doesn't
of
go
a
very
fence?
far.
And I think that's something that you can figure out in today's dollars. You know, if it comes back that 750,000 for just the fence,
Fence.
then $1 million isn't going to do much. So I think that's just the last piece of the puzzle that I need to
Good
see.
example.
We understand, yeah. So, yeah, like I said, you need a cost breakdown on what it would cost to come to that, and, I mean,
Which is this, I mean, you gave us this, it's just make sure that it all makes sense.
Cost it out.
Yeah. Yeah, I don't know that
Can you
anybody.
read this, Joe?
I don't know how you're gonna.
Can you read that, Joe?
Or no?
I don't even,
I really don't know how.
it's gonna be $100 million
I don't
80
even know
years
how
from now.
these people would ever even come up with this figure for 80 years from now.
Works for now.
No, for now. Come up with one for now.
Yeah.
For now, for today.
What's for now? I mean,
Do we want a bond or not bond?
you're gonna have a bond.
Okay, for,
I have bonds that we do with our company. Some places we have to have $1 million bond. I have $1 million bond for the town of Acushnet, $1 million bond for the town of Haven, Mattapoisett, New Bedford, Acushnet Company, $2 million.
which is probably many times
It's a
your
performance bond.
liability.
If they don't comply with what they're supposed to be doing, then you can jump the bond. We had a garbage, just for instance, we had a garbage company that came into town. They worked for us for, were you here, Wanda, at the time? No. They worked for us for a few years, and they went bankrupt. And when they went bankrupt, first thing we went, right for the bond. And we hired somebody to come in. We jumped the performance bond, we hired somebody to come in, that was, I think, was ABC Disposal, and they took over from there. Then naturally, the selectmen later on got somebody else to do the work at a cheaper price. But when we had that performance bond, that was just if they bail out. These people just put a brand new asphalt plant up front, and I don't think they're gonna be bailing out, not my lifetime. I mean, I've been watching them going up, and they just brought a big piece in the conveyor that goes up and fills up all the silos, the 8 silos. I just don't know, $1 million is nothing today for a company of that size. But the thing is, you have something in place. If our attorneys tell us that we have to jack up the $1 million to 10 million, it's just a bond. Bonds are cheap. But if you jump the bond, they're gonna have to cover that bond. Because the insurance company ain't gonna do a $1 million bond for $300-400 a year. You know what I mean? They're gonna dish out $1 million, they're gonna have to come up with that.
well, I mean,
Not them.
the one thing I understand
company.
about bonds is their bonding company evaluates them and determines what the risk is in issuing the bond per
So
dollar.
they may come up with a higher price on the
Well, it's
bond.
based on this, I would
Well,
assume.
it's also based on the present value of the materials and the value of the property and what's on the property. So if we took all of those things and added up, what we have on the property right now, and let's say, just for the sake of saying it, it's worth $100 million. Then do we subtract the $100 million from, you know, I mean, we could say if we walked away tomorrow, you'd be holding $100 million in value.
Yeah, I think.
If that's what the
gotta be-
attorneys would talk about, you know what I mean?
I think it
We're
just-
not attorneys here, so, I mean, why don't we just throw this over to Copeland and Page? That's what they're getting paid big bucks for. Let them come up with a figure, talk to their attorneys.
Well, they
let
can't
'em-
come up with a figure.
Yeah, I think it's the reasonable part of that is the belief that you would take what is of value. If for some reason or the other, you know, any business is gonna go out, unless you've done something completely wrong with the feds, and the IRS comes in and seizes everything, realistically, you're gonna take as much of it that's valuable. And that's my gut. So you machines, equipment, the best that you can. Some of the infrastructure that you have there, the superstructures there, those are the kind of things, the buildings, whatnot, that might be left behind. Those are the things that you would really be looking at, trying to take down, trying to move around. The large amounts of dirt that are piled around, trying to flatten it out, trying to do things like that. You know, from a reasonable standpoint, you know, and a reasonable cost associated with it. Sure, if you walk away, I mean, you can look at it from one extreme right down to the other extreme, and hopefully you just, everything works out fine and it turns out to be beautiful. But there's that medium spot that I think that we have to look at. It's not that you're gonna leave all your equipment there and go away, you know, it's
And
the
if,
fact that
and
there's
if
gonna
the
be
fence
some
go
of
in,
the
they're gonna
stuff there.
confiscate everything
But
anyhow.
we don't own it, the bank owns it, the bank
Yeah.
owns it.
Right.
Right? And
So
we
what are
put
we
taxes
left with?
on it. What are we left with?
In general, and I think that you've got the basic idea of what's going on here, and just put some dollars and cents to it, so we can see how it makes sense. You know, if we gotta take a few, you know, superstructures down, it's, again, let's just look at it, I mean, from the standpoint of what you have here. Just try to figure that out that way, see if it makes sense. You know, the chief had a good thought there, it's a lot of fence.
It's a lot of fence.
There's a lot of sidewalk, there's a lot of pavement, you guys know how much pavement is. If that asphalt plant isn't working, it ain't gonna be cheap. And to start working with that, you know, I think we're further ahead than we have been
Agreed.
over the years, so.
Well, what's your pleasure? What do you want them to do? You want to come up with a figure? We can't come up with it. We can say we want a $10 million bond. Would that cover it? To do what they show in here? No. You know, that's if they run off. I don't think these guys are gonna, maybe these guys will run away someday. The life expectancy of an employee with their grade and being bosses is no more than 10 years, you know, for that company. So, you know.
You all get bond, I mean, what do you see, how do you suggest you play it? You all get bonds on a regular basis, backing projects you're doing, I
They're
suspect.
gonna be bonded by the state to do state highway work.
And
I
how do you
mean, if
value,
they don't
how do you value
comply,
that?
they
How do
jump
you-
that.
You go to your insurance company and, right, what's it worth? What's it gonna cost us? And that's,
I don't think the insurance company can come up with a figure. I don't think they're smart enough. You gotta be really smart. This is not a bank or a little contracted business like me or working for the town or anything. This is big business here. You know what I mean? You're talking multi-billion-dollar business. You're not talking $200,000-300,000 business, a $1 million business. These guys are big business. You know, I mean,
so this
we're
should,
big
this should,
business
this
in
should be
town
easy
too.
for them then, right?
No. Maybe,
It should be easy.
maybe for you, I don't know.
Should be easy for
I
them.
know I couldn't figure it out. I've been figuring it all my life. I've been in the racket for 57 years, so, you know, I don't know. That's what we're paying attorneys for. Drop it in their lap, let them
But I
buy it.
I suspect, Bob, you could do, if you could do this, if you put the time, given the business you're in,
I could
if you
figure
needed
it
to
out,
put a value to that, you could put a value to that.
but you don't pay me enough to do that.
I know, but
Joe
I
can do
don't
it too.
think.
Joe is
You
an
know,
engineer
Joe
too.
used to be in
so-
that business.
I don't know
There's
anything.
a way to value what this is worth, and that's all, what's it worth, back it with a bond.
Yep. Yeah, the $1 million figure was what the town asked for, and we said, we'll
Yeah,
go up to the $1 million, so that was the conversation.
Yeah, there was two parts to that. There was the 768 to update it to $1 million, because that seemed to make more sense about what it was. But there was also the other side of what, like what you said, was to come up with a plan, because we didn't have a plan on decommissioning of this. And then, basically what Selectman Cabral just said, kind of match it out, so that we actually get an idea. If it's $1 million, it's $1 million. If it's 2, it's 2. If it's 5, it's 5. But for now, because we were so far behind, we had asked in March, the board had asked if we could kick it up to $1 million and then work on this.
Mhm.
And at that point, I think Kevin had said, well, that's not an unreasonable request. We have, we do this on a regular basis. We come up with these plans. We'll start working on it. We hadn't hired, we had to go back to a consultant. The consultant had to, basically start to draw out the plan, and then we would take a look at it again on what the value was, once you kind of came up with what the plan would be to decommission it. So that was always part of the original conversation. And that's where we are now, and ultimately just.
So we've kind of come up with exactly what you asked for, which was up the bill, up the bond, and then
The
bring
first
this
time.
up. This is and then you're saying continue the discussion from here, that's what you're saying?
Yes, yeah, because now you've created this, we see this, we're able to talk about this. We know that we're sitting on $1 million, which is something that we had asked for. In the meantime, while you guys are working this out, well, we're all working this out. And just keep moving forward. And that's really what the intent always was. I mean, we
Yeah, I'm not
probably
sure-
should have had 3 more meetings.
I'm not
before
sure
that.
we talked about the $1 million here at the last soil board meeting. I'm not sure if we threw out that number or we left that open.
We
I
did,
don't-
we did.
I don't
Yeah, it was to kick it up
Is
to $1
there
million.
bond,
This $1 million was done before you came into the picture. Yes.
Huh? Yeah, I don't recall asking for that number. I thought we left it open to figure out what number was appropriate.
It's on you.
Okay, was the start, okay, all right.
Alright.
so if
Yeah.
they come up with a bond for $1 million, or is that what
They
we're
did.
gonna sign?
They
tonight?
did, they
That's all
absolutely
signed,
did that.
sealed, and delivered, right?
Right.
Well,
Okay,
look-
so the next move is now, you wanna get a third party, an engineering company, to come in and say what's it gonna cost them to close it down.
I do want to have Copeland and Page look at the bond as well.
Yeah,
I-
Tidy
Yeah,
up
if we
that.
need to, they look at it and you want the language tidied up with the names.
I'd rather bring it,
or whatever
I'd rather
the case
start
might
with a
be,
fresh
then
document that,
Send us the information back and then
Yep, yep.
Yeah.
that's the
We'll work
appropriate way
on
to
it.
keep the fresh document.
Yeah, if Copeland Page can tell us how we do something that's out, and what value we have sitting on the property now, and what that means to the town, and what that means to the bonding company, and, the bonding company just wants to make sure they get whole at the end of the day. Then everything else is, up. So it is a rather complicated exercise when you start to dig down into, the value of everything that's on the site now, and what the value of what's gonna be 80 years from now.
I don't
Could be,
think,
could be what not 80 years from now.
It could be
Who
worth
knows?
nothing.
We may not even, all of us may not even be here.
Well, I won't be
I don't
there.
think the town could ever realize the value of the property if you weren't operating there. I mean, all of the assets there don't become the town's assets. You've abandoned them. I mean, they become the bonding company's assets, they become the bank's assets. We've got a real estate tax bill and a real estate tax lien, but, we don't get any of that equipment or any of your trucks or any of your vehicles don't come to us just because they've walked away. So I'm not sure it's, you've got a lender that's got a lien on it, you may have a mortgage on the property, I don't know, but, all of that stuff is part of the formula. It doesn't, you don't walk away and it all becomes an asset of the town of Acushnet. So that's not really fair to say that, we've got $100 million there, it's yours when we walk away, because I'm not sure it wouldn't really work that way. You're not gonna walk away. This whole conversation's about something we don't want to happen. You don't want to happen, we don't want to happen. But that's, we gotta protect ourselves from what could happen, and that's what this is. And,
Find a fair, happy medium.
yes, talk to your bonding company. You're in a different kind of business. We've got one in Acushnet. I don't know how many there are in the Commonwealth, but and I don't know what you're doing at your other location for this issue, but, we're trying to protect the residents of our town.
What do they do in Cranston?
Appreciate that.
What do they do in Cranston for a bond?
If the bond in Cranston is like minimal, I mean, it's not even, I
About
haven't
Lun-
honestly,
about
I haven't
Lunenburg?
honestly seen it.
How about Lunenburg? You guys are from Lunenburg.
Yeah.
See, Lunenburg is a unique plant because roads go through the place.
Mhm.
People have access going through their pits. And we would never want people running through the pit because those machines can't see cars. I
Yeah,
don't know how, I've
Well,
never been to Lunenburg's plant,
we
but
just got our new earth removal permit, I can tell you this, from the town of Lunenburg, and there was no discussion about bonding.
nothing whatsoever.
Nothing in
But it's
Cranston.
possible there's a bond there they're happy with that they know, perhaps.
Yeah, you're right, there could be.
There might be one in the drawer somewhere that they know that they've got, and it's $5 million, and we did this 5 years ago with the, I don't know,
You're right.
we're guessing, I don't know,
Yes.
I don't know.
I don't know either.
How about Connecticut? Nothing with Connecticut?
I'm not familiar with Tilcon.
Not familiar with it.
No. Yeah, I don't
Let
know,
me ask you
just
this,
bringing
you
up
got-
different places, I don't know what.
We
you
have a
guys
$1 million
got.
bond in place right now?
Yep.
Okay, so that's a start. We gotta come up and figure out what the decommissioning price is gonna be. You have to do it within the next year or two. You can't do it 80 years down the road. Am I correct?
Mm-hmm.
Okay, if we come up with that decommissioning, I know with the planning board, when we do it for solar farms, we have a third-party engineer come in and does the whole thing, how much it's gonna cost to decommission it. I mean, if you wanna do that, third party, unless you gentlemen wanna do it,
We can certainly take a look at the plans that's provided.
Yep.
And come up with some kind of reasonable
Okay.
ballpark of what it is. You know, we
Okay.
talked about fence,
yep,
we can get a price on the fence. You know, I
We
mean,
can meet
that's-
again and talk.
they-
yep.
Yep, no, I think that, yeah, it's perfectly fair. I mean, I think that we have to agree on caveats, you know. to
We're
some
building
degree.
soccer fields, we're not, if we're not taking out, you know, things like that.
I mean, why
Well,
would they put down,
or
they're gonna
put
build
that
soccer
as
fields
just
and
gonna
stuff
be-
if they're not gonna do it?
Again, the intention was,
We'll be much more clear once we revisit the plan.
Thank you.
Let's put it that way.
Good answer.
Because
Dirt, loam, and grass.
we'll make sure it says it's a grass area for multiple use, as you see fit.
Perfect.
Something like that. So that means we'll spread some loam,
Says it.
seed it. Doesn't mean we'll bring in the crumb rubber and
Right.
the 6 inches of specialized stone and.
We won't put a floor over this, put a dome on the
Straight
top of
lines,
it.
straight lines.
Oh, that would be nice.
New Patriot Stadium right here.
So what else do we have to do now?
So they had talked about some other things, some other improvements to me that they were working on out there. Do you wanna talk about those?
First of all, dust control, what do you got for that?
So we're putting in some more water cannons and dust suppression on the plant. We've identified where we're going to be putting that on the existing plant, and it's like a Dr. Dust system, sort of updating that and adding more of those sprays around the site. And Jeff's got a few of those in place now, but I think we've put some substantial monies aside for this season coming to do those increases to the site.
Well, the sprays you got now are useless, really.
I think they're all the way through the site. It's an old system that's in place, and we're going to update that, and that's part of modern quarrying.
Well, Kelly put them in, when Kelly was superintendent there,
Okay.
he put them sprinklers along the roadway. I mean, basically, some of them in wood spraying, and am I right or wrong, Jeff?
Kenny went through, he fixed it, we don't,
I
we
mean,
run
Jeff's,
it as we need it now,
Yeah.
you know, especially.
I mean, you got a tanker now spraying all the time,
Yeah.
they're out there all the time, every day,
But
unless it rains.
Kenny went through head by head and replaced all the ones that were blown apart or shooting up. So Kenny Manise does that during the day. Now he'll shut off his own and then he'll replace a couple heads. So we've had tried to get in the beginning of the year after the winter freeze. Yeah, we have a lot of stuff that's busted. But then over the first, few months or something, he's on that, fixing that. Then because the road, you're in there on the road so much, when we put too much water on the road, and then we make the potholes, and the trucks bang the gates, and so we're trying to find a balance point with keeping the road damp, but not saturating it and creating a pothole.
Well, we
So-
talked about one day, a couple of weeks ago, about easing on the south side by the
Yep.
3/4 dense grade.
Yep.
Easy on the water there, because that was really getting bad and muddy.
Yeah.
So he told the water guy in the tanker, to take it easy over in there because it was just making a mess because the sun couldn't dry it up, you know?
It's a finesse.
But
It's
they've
a
been putting a
finesse.
lot of water down, I can admit to that, you know, that they've been watering that place very, very heavy.
We also asphalted a lot this year as well, we, all around the scale, we put in all brand new asphalt around that
But that's all
area.
shot already.
It's, I don't think it is.
There's some spots, there's some potholes.
There's some craters as big as this thing.
We're gonna film on
I'm
it.
after them all the time, am I right or wrong, Jeff?
Uh,
We get out in South Main Street, the big trucks are leaving, they make that turn, they're busting up out in front. I think you guys fixed that once. I appreciate if you fix it again, because I had a neighbor that, she's a young girl, and she was coming down the road, she hit that hole in the middle, crossing the street. It was dark, she took a digger on her bike, and she got all busted up. I said, well, you should get a hold of Keating. But she says, well, that's state. I said, well, have them fix it. You know, remember I asked about fixing it, and they said they can't go in the middle of the road. I said, if you guys are gonna fix it, it ain't gonna take long, a couple of wheelbarrows to fix that hole, it's about that deep and about that big, am I right or wrong? Right in front of the main
No,
gate.
it's the traffic controllers, like.
I mean, if that's the case, we can always get a police officer to watch the traffic there for 15, 20 minutes. You know, he's running back and forth, he can stop and watch the man for 15, 20 minutes, patch the hole, nobody gets hurt.
Mm.
I'm just concerned that somebody else is gonna get hurt. You know?
Is it still there? The stand
It's
out?
still there. I was, matter of fact, I took mix out of there today. I was gonna stop in the middle of the road and dump some out of my truck and fill it.
Mm.
Cause every time you make that turn, that front wheel hits and the wheel goes right off from underneath, and, you know. I don't wanna see nobody get hurt. I asked them to cut the brush back to the stone wall. Am I right or wrong, Jeff? And Jeff talked to his superiors, and they cut back all the way up to the power lines, going north and south, they cut all the way up to their property. So now, a truck don't have to go way out into the road to see up
To
the
see
road,
what's
if
going
there's
on.
any cars coming. So that's preventing an accident on your behalf, or the trucker's behalf. I'm looking out for the taxpayers of the town, or anybody else traveling through this town. You know, I don't wanna see nobody get killed. You hit one of these big trucks leaving there with your car, sayonara, you're not gonna be here anymore. If you are, you're a pretty lucky guy. You know, so I'm just thinking, Jeff talked to his superiors, they went in, it cost them a few bucks, he told me how much, but I don't wanna say how much, but it cost them a lot of money to cut that brush down, to make it look clean. That way you can see up the road and the cars can see the trucks coming out, so. That's good in their part, doing something like that, but I like to have that holes in the middle of that street fixed. It's not basically the state's problem, it's the trucks leaving there that hits that hole and just keep making it bigger and bigger and bigger.
Question on dust control, Bob,
Yeah.
just one other. Is it, while you're replacing water cannons and spraying the machinery, is it possible to put water up on the dust piles, on the material piles, on, I guess that's the south side of the property? You've got materials stacked up pretty high, is it possible to keep that wet?
We have a water cannon on water truck. Our piles they're growing and getting smaller and they're moving, so it was tough to set up stationary
Yeah.
water cannons in one
I
spot.
think
so
that seems to be a source of a lot of the dust that's hitting the houses south of you.
we wet. The material gets wet as it's being on the conveyors. It gets wet, so it's wet when it dumps onto the pile. I know what you're saying, that it sits there and it gets dried if it's sitting in the same spot. So we upgraded the water truck this past season, a bigger truck with a cannon.
It
And the
shoots up
guy
onto
can
the
wet,
piles.
yeah, so he can wet those piles.
Does he?
Yes.
So in conjunction with that, isn't part of your capital expenditure project, water on the tower as well, or is there like an enclosure or something like that? Or did I
Right.
get that wrong?
So the existing screen house, and I'm sure Bob, you've seen the holes in them, so to completely enclose that and have that so that's, because we've identified that there are times when there's dust blowing from there, so we've got more water on, so that would help us to have that enclosed in, so that's part of it as well. And you're always going to see the water truck going around putting water down, and to Jeff's, what Jeff just said, you know, we are spraying water up high. He's got that cannon on that, and he can get onto all the stockpiles. And once he's got that water on there, you get that like crust over the top, and once that's there, but once we go in and break it, then we have to go back at the mill and respray it, and that's sort of an ongoing thing. And they're very good at going around and doing that.
When I toured the property, to me, that struck me as being the source of a lot of the dust, that the homes south that you were seeing off those piles. I just looked, I could see the dust coming off them the day I was there, so. And, you know, been to some of the houses south, they're certainly impacted by the operations at the quarry. I mean, there's a lot of dust still going into those neighborhoods, so. Take that back. Last time I was there, it's been a little while. I can't say that it's happened, it's happening now. The people I've met with, there were big complaints over the years, so I can't say, you know, yesterday or today it's an issue, but when I was there, it was an issue.
Back to the roadway, to talk about some improvements. The last time we had a meet and greet, I agreed that we would approach the district once again to try to.
Excuse me for 1 second. This is the picture of the new tanker truck that they got.
And it's got a cannon on it, or is
There's a
that just like the
cannon,
roadway?
there's a cannon here, and there's a cannon on the other side. He's got sprayers here to spray the roads. He's got 2 big sprays in the back that'll cover this whole room. He goes down the road one time and it's under high pressure. You've seen that picture, right, Joe? Chief?
How many gallons?
4,000.
And then we were discussing one time, Jeff and I do a lot of talking with Jeff about different problems. And we try correcting problems in there all the
They're
time.
challenges, Bob.
Huh?
They're challenges.
Yeah. And what he did, it takes so much time to get to the back and water the back. So what he did was on where they wash down the trucks by the asphalt plant, he did a tap into the main trunk line of the water. And now, when the guy gets done doing that road, he runs out of water, he stops just by the asphalt plant and he loads up another load there, and then he does all around the asphalt plant now. And then when he comes back, he runs out, he picks up a load, he goes back out to the front. When he gets all the front all done, he loads up again in the front. But the big towers there, there's a section that they put up. So they got 2 terminals that they pick up water, so there's no time lost, this truck is moving all the time. I'm in there watching it. And when I see a problem with dust coming out of the towers, I get a hold of Jeff, and Jeff immediately closes that towers down and stops production, which I don't want you guys to hear, but he stops it to stop the dust. I mean, I can't say nothing, whatever I have asked Jeff to do, he's done on behalf of the people of the town and the soil board or the board of health. I have 2 positions here, soil board and board of health, so I can uphold both, you know, and I'm looking out for the best interests of the town, plus I want to make sure that they're doing their jobs right and keeping everybody happy. I don't think we have too many complaints, but, you know, there's some days in the summertime,
So significantly less.
yeah,
Significantly.
summertime, it's tough, because everything gets dry and there's no way, the only one that can stop that dust completely is Mother Nature, you know that. So, I mean, I think they're doing a pretty good job right now.
Could we loop back a minute to the road?
Yep.
For my own education and the folks who are watching at home, if there is a huge pothole that's obviously impacted by the heavy trucks, explain the process by which you would be given authorization to fill it. It's not as simple as just ordering a truck out there to fill it.
It's, no, certainly,
More complicated.
from our standpoint, we would love to just take some mix, you know, halt traffic, you know, as appropriate and patch the hole.
Which is what the town does on town roads.
That's correct.
Okay.
This is a state road, you're required, and to work in the road, we're required to have a permit. Usually you get that permit because you've been issued some kind of project with the state. So, as I mentioned, when we met earlier about that road, we've been denied the ability to go fix the road on our own. We really didn't have they didn't have a mechanism to allow us to do that. But we do have a various contract with the state, and I agreed to approach the District 5 again. They did, Jerry Menard did come down with some of his folks, met with some of our people, and we will be doing a section in front of both entrances, on both sides. We'll carry it on to past both entrances. We're gonna be milling the road and repaving the road this season, so. And we'll be doing that at, you know, certainly at our cost, but within the parameters of one of our contracts with them, and that's how they've worked around the system a little bit, to make sure that we can do it effectively and safe. We'll do it this year, so.
Excellent.
That doesn't take care of the short-term
It's calendar year.
patch, yes, that's correct. That's one thing that was on, you know, that was brought up the last time.
So District Five says it was all right for you guys to do it?
So that should effectively eliminate all those potholes in that area.
It will, I
Been
mean,
there for years.
it won't be, you know, it'll do a great job for a number of time, but there's certainly a lot of pressure on the tires with the heavy weighted trucks, so.
Sure, yeah.
But
Those holes keep popping
And
up
certainly,
over and
when you
over.
have a hole and you patch it,
It's
the
gonna
hole
come
comes
back.
back, we all.
Right. That's good.
Yeah, another item that we're going to be doing over the next month or so is, so Bob, you'd be aware of this, so when the trucks are leaving the site, they do pick up material on their wheels. And so one of the things that happens often, right where Jeff's office is in fact, is that you get silt buildup. So we go through with the water truck, the silt is then pushed to the side of the road and side of it's on our property. But if you're familiar with pulling into the site, the people who work in the office park their vehicles, there's a little parking area there. And what we have is that material will come off, the silt will build up pretty quickly. Jeff's out there cleaning it up on a regular basis. But we think we've come up with a plan where we're gonna put in a vein drain, it's called. It's basically, just think about it as a drain. If you go through the tunnels in Boston and whatnot, you're always seeing these drain systems.
Like a French drain?
Yeah, it's a French drain, right, exactly. And so we're gonna put that drain along the front entrance to the parking lot where naturally by gravity, that's where everything's flowing in that direction. And we actually have a swale that comes out and directs the water down. The water doesn't go into the brook, it actually goes back into the detention pond that's behind there. So, that's not so much the issue, but we're trying to lessen the amount of silt that even goes into where our detention pond is. That's really where we get our discharge point from EPA for our water quality monitoring. So by putting in that vein drain at that location, it's basically a manhole, about 40 feet of vein drain encircled in a PVC pipe. And then at the end of that, we're gonna have a septic tank that will hold about 1,500 gallons. The material will settle out in that, and then we have where the water comes up to that level, clean water will come out and go down to that swale. And it's gonna be amply large enough. It's a 36 by 48 inch grate that will be on there. And when we see that the septic tank is filled with silt, then we'll pop that off, clean it with conventional
You guys
equipment.
gonna put a monitoring thing in there, like, to tell you when it's full? Are you gonna monitor this thing weekly, monthly, or?
You can see right through the grades.
The tank itself?
Yeah.
Mhm.
Oh, so you're gonna be able to see inside
Yeah.
this tank?
Yeah, we'll have a 36 by 48 inch grate on top of it, the tank itself, and so you should be able to look right
So
in.
basically, you guys gonna run a sanitary tee in it?
Yeah.
Makes sense, right, Joe?
Yeah, maybe.
That
It
we'll only
depends
have-
upon what the outlet size is gonna be.
It'd be a, what, you said 1,500 gallon tank?
Yeah,
The pipe on the outside, that's all I was getting. I mean, I don't know that they need
it's
to.
a
do
6
that.
inch elbow coming out. It's pretty small.
Okay, that's big.
It's definitely big, and yeah, if they don't pump it out, it's gonna clog up,
Oh, yeah.
so they're gonna
Oh, yeah,
stay
no,
on.
so we have a manhole at one end so that we can put water in to clean. Everything drops into the PVC pipe that's below the drain, so the PVC pipe directs everything to the tank. And if we see that that's clogged, we can put a hose right into the manhole, clean that out, it goes into the
So when do you
the
guys
tank.
propose to do this?
We've ordered all the stuff, we have some of it on site now. We're just waiting for a few more things from Nina Foundry, it's coming from Wisconsin, so, it should be in the next 3 weeks or so. And we have our own construction crews that can put that in, and that's what the plan is, so. Be definitely before, hopefully before December.
Yeah.
December 1st, but, once the things start to slow down on site, we have additional folks to do that type of work. I mean, they're very good at it, so.
What else we got?
Uh,
While we're on it, what else we got?
Those are the most significant immediate improvements that we're planning on doing, physically. And I know that you have some additional monitoring that's gonna be, you know, that you talked about and whatnot, so.
How's the asphalt plant going? I mean, in regard, I mean, obviously, we've seen it, you've been working on that, is that moving?
Yeah, that's moving on schedule quite well. The majority of the new components have been delivered or are being delivered, that's, you've certainly seen that. The majority of those are being erected as they're delivered. So the silos are in, the silos are in, the traverse conveyors on top of the silos. This afternoon, the slat conveyor that connects the outfeed of the drum up to the silos came today, that'll be put in place tomorrow. We continue to finish up on just a few more foundations. We really, once we get that done, Aztec, they're doing a lot of the work, the people we bought the plant components from. They'll leave town, we'll go until December. The first part of December, we'll be shutting down our asphalt plant out back, and then we'll start immediate decommission of that while we put the rest of the components in place, either from the existing plant, or there are a few new components that we chose not to get delivered, just because of the room on the site, like the new cold feed bins and those kinds of things, a few new conveyors and that. But, and then we'll take the existing components when that's decommissioned in December, move those up to the front, like the drum, the bag house, the burner, and the control room, and those types of things. So, everything's moving fairly well with that.
Have you guys seen it?
Some of it.
Oh, yeah, well, I'll take a picture tomorrow, send it to you.
We're supposed to go
Quite
over
the
there on
salad, well,
Friday.
a couple of people called me and they seen the sallows coming down the road. One guy called me, he says, "What the heck is that?" I says, "They're putting some missile silos in Bikini." The guy, "Oh no, we're gonna blow up." I was joking with him, you know, they're big, you know.
Yeah, they look like it.
So he said, I told the guy, one guy called me and I said, "Yeah, they're putting missile silos up in the Acushnet." Guy almost flipped out, he almost died. But I told him that's the new asphalt plant that they put up. There's 8 of them up there right now. Am I right or wrong? 8?
8, yeah.
And that's gonna be it. It's
Yeah.
just those 8.
Yep.
That's correct.
And they are slightly wider than the existing,
Yeah, they're
but
shorter.
they're shorter.
They're shorter and wider, yeah, that's correct.
So, at what point in this process would the fire protection plan be submitted? I've had some preliminary talks with your consultant.
Yeah, Ted?
Yes. And to be honest, it had seemed like it's just a short time period away.
Mhm.
But that was a long time period ago.
Mhm.
And you've constructed now the site.
Yep.
It's secured to the ground.
So I guess maybe I'm confused about your thoughts about the fire suppression as it relates to the tank area or just the overall site itself?
We haven't seen any plan for this new operation.
Mhm. Well, I would suggest that you and I get together and my perception was that you and Matt were in discussions about stuff. I know he introduced himself to you and so I would say that you and I need to get together and follow up on whatever it is.
Okay.
So,
But we can't expect engineered plans. We have a letter of commitment from your predecessors saying that the company would foot the bill for a peer review of that plan.
From our predecessors, from
From,
what time
who was
frame?
it, Kevin Buchan?
Joking.
Yokin?
Okay, well, I
Kevin's no
think,
longer with that company anyway.
right, so I think from my standpoint, I'm not aware of that, so I think you and I need to get together and go over quite a few things. It
Wouldn't
sounds
that
like.
be part of the building
Yeah.
permit process?
The,
Wouldn't that, you'd sign off on the building permit and include?
no,
No?
no, this is a standalone.
Okay.
And then at some point, because of it's being considered moving the facility, kind of, it tags it as a new facility with a new license that goes before the Board of Selectmen for approval, the storage of combustible liquids.
Yeah, the the storage area needs to be signed off by the state fire marshal, and then, yep.
Right, so there's a permit for me, a license, approval from the fire marshal, and then a license from the license authority, which is the board of selectmen,
Okay,
because of the quantity of combustible liquids.
You know, we've had that conversation before,
Right.
yeah.
And you're gonna look to make sure that all the appropriate, I would assume that you're going to look to make sure that all the appropriate local permits have been issued.
Gonna make, to be sure you're happy. You're happy, I'm happy.
Okay, so we should get together soon.
do that
on
shortly.
Sure.
Basically, we should have a sign-off sheet, sign off from us, sign off from the fire department, sign off from the board of selectmen. And if everybody agrees upon it, and then bang it, they got it. You know, if somebody has something to say about something, speak now.
So there's
So
one
everybody
other
would have
item.
to sign off to say that they're in agreement with what's going on, I would think.
We have asked several
They've
times
already, too late.
to,
Sorry to it.
to witness a cold start of the
Mhm.
existing plant,
That's correct.
and that hasn't been followed through on.
So we had a scheduled time frame. We offered up a new time frame, and then the existing manager canceled that. So we can revisit that anytime you like. Pick some dates when we think it's gonna be what you classify as a cold start, which is, like I said before, is a little bit difficult, but we have no problem doing that. But it was scheduled and it was canceled. So, just so we're all aware, that's what happened.
What are you burning for fuel?
Gas,
Natural
gas.
gas.
Were you aware?
We're gonna run natural gas.
Yeah, if there was a brief window of heads up
Okay.
on that, and the parties that wanted to be there weren't able to come to the discussion. So, you know, there's no blame on that, but it's something that, Mr. Chairman, we've talked about in the past, that where the plant is being moved significantly closer to a major thoroughfare, in our due diligence, it would benefit the town if we witnessed how that plant looks, smells, sounds.
November 13, 2018.
Jeez.
Wait a minute. We need to witness plant startup. 11/13/18 meeting, PJ, you know, so at that meeting, we talked about, we wanna witness the plant startup, so a year ago. we
And the
talked
same
about-
reasons are still on the table.
Yeah.
So that, you know, when the residents turn and say, did you know that it sounds like this, when
Yeah.
it smells like this, that it feels like this, we're able to answer the affirmative, because town officials witnessed that.
Yeah, we can do that.
So we'll work on that as well.
Yep.
Excellent.
I'd like to join this vote.
And that's really early in the morning, right?
Well,
Disgustingly early in the morning?
well, if you really talk, an asphalt plant doesn't really do a cold startup. You really don't press one button and everything turns on at the same time. I get the premise of if we've been running the plant for a period of time and we shut down when we start it back up, that it's probably warmer than it was when you started in the morning and you didn't have any mix production earlier. I get the premise of that, but really it's a sequential, no matter when you started, it's a sequential process. It's just how the plant works, I guess. You just don't put the load to start up all the motors at the same time. But if you want to see it from, we haven't been in production, and here we go, we started up, then it will be.
With that, I don't think it's fair to say worst case scenario, but that would, I think, be the most challenging for the machinery if it was down for a period of time and now it's gonna be coming on in stages as opposed to it's only been cycled down, now it's being cycled back up.
You could probably say, you know, like with any vehicles or construction equipment, something that's run for a period of time is warmed up, so to speak. But the motors, when they start up, they sound the same. You know, whether they've been running or not. You know, it's kind of like to start a vehicle, but the rest of the stuff, maybe there's a slight difference, but we can do both. That's fine with me.
I know the startups on the asphalt plant, that all the temperatures have to be up there in order for that plant to start up. You can't just take a plant and say, okay, push the buttons and it's gonna start. If the temperatures in that plant for the fuel and the asphalt and and everything isn't just up to the proper temperature, that plant will not stop. You can push buttons all day long. You know, if you shut it down for 5 minutes, and then I would think you can start it back up. This is what I know about asphalt plants. Maybe I don't know nothing, but I ask a lot of questions, and I know last week they had a problem with getting the temperatures high enough to stop, and it wouldn't stop. So I hung around for at least an hour before they could get the temperatures up. But there was some kind of a solenoid or something that acted up and didn't allow it to heat up. So you can't just start up an asphalt plant like that. You know, the average person really don't know much about an asphalt plant, but you know, been around a long time. So to do a dry start, you have to have material in that asphalt plant. Otherwise you burn out the drum, because that heat is so intensive. An office that big in here, I would think. This new one's gonna have one. You guys gonna use the same drive from out back?
Yeah, yeah.
So that's a pretty good sized office. I mean, they have a, 10-inch line, natural gas line feeding that thing. They hit that this past summer. And boy, took time for them to fix it. They fixed it real quick, and it was just an error.
When is that scheduled to be done? The gas tie-in?
Well, there's two types of tie-ins, but we're getting ready for the foundation where the gas mount walls sit. The tie-in itself from the ground to the burner won't happen until the winter. And then, of course, it needs to be, the valve needs to be certified, stamped, and those kinds of things. But for the process of making sure we have the right people to do that.
So are they coming off the gas main on South Main Street?
That's correct.
That's what it comes off now, just a different spot.
Yeah, it comes up
Just up there.
Further
south, down the road, I think, and then goes up.
What are they gonna do with the existing main that they have in the back that runs down Wing Road through the power lines?
I'm not sure at the moment.
Are they gonna cut that off?
Once you
I couldn't speak on
decommission
it.
the existing plant, I assume that the gas line that comes in will be capped as well.
Oh, yeah.
Will be terminated as well.
Yeah. Outside of just capping that, I'm not sure what our intentions are at the moment. Short term.
Any other questions?
Just, right,
Okay.
this resident asked, nighttime operations, I mean, you go in season, you're going all night, we're all happy when we get on the highway the next day and it's done, and we didn't have to deal with the traffic backups, but, you know, this plant runs all night long. Is it just doing state work, or is it doing private work as well at night? Our understanding's been it's just state work at night, that you're not doing private jobs out of this facility at night. So-
There's very little private work. It's not, it wouldn't be abnormal for us not to have a couple of jobs. Maybe there's a private project that requires, you know, some type of scheduling. But there are some municipalities that require some night work. But the majority of the work that happens at night is for our state projects.
80%, 90%, 95%?
And I think it can vary quite a bit, but it's a very high percentage.
Because I know when we had a meeting with selectmen years ago with Jim Riga and Jack Freeman down the town hall with the boards of selectmen, this was all new down there. And the agreement was it was a verbal agreement, for what your word is worth, that there wouldn't be no private work done except the state and municipalities doing paving at night or like Sunday night or something like that. We gained permission to pave state highways, federal highways, local highways, like we say, a road in here would be paved, but would be at night because the traffic is down. You know, it's a narrow road, somebody could get killed. You know, people don't stop or slow down for highway people, they just keep going, you know, and that's not right. Slow yourself down, you know. And
I think there's a perception that that's still the case, that it's just.
but the agreement with them, and they highly says, yes, we have no problem with that. They can wait until the next day if you're in a private parking lot. There's no reason for you to have to work Sundays and having trucks in and out of that quarry all day Sunday, you know. I know that they've done, these big places, Amazons and all that, which they have to run night and day, because they have to get this job done. But just for local guys coming in and saying we wanna get mixed on a Sunday or something like that, that was a no-no with them. I don't know if that would go still with Jim, when Jim Rieger and Freeman was here, if that's still good, if the word was good, but he was president of PJ Keating at the time, Jim. So I don't know if that still upholds, we have to make a new ruling on it, or whatever, but I think that would be a good ruling. Because, you know, the neighbors doing work for the state and feds is a necessity that you have to do it at night, because somebody's gonna get themselves killed, you know, during the day. So the traffic is at its minimum at night, but to do private work at night and all that, I don't think that's fair to the people that live in this town. You know, bad enough to get put up with this all day long, you know? That's my personal opinion, and I explained that to them down at the town hall when we had to meet with Keating at the time. And the president of PJ Keating was there, that was Jim Regan. You know, I don't know what's your standard at Keating?
What's that?
What's your standards at Keating, vice president or?
Of construction, and that's why, yeah.
So, I mean, this is an understanding that we had with them, was basically, I don't think it was in writing, but it should be in the minutes at the town hall. I asked Wanda today if she could get a hold of the town hall people and find out about if they have minutes of that.
It's certainly nothing that
That'd be a
I'm
project.
familiar with, it's nothing that our president's familiar with. And he certainly, he worked for Jim Rieger for a period of time
Yeah.
before he became the president as well, so.
There's a belief in town that that's still the case, and that there's been some private projects run out of there at night. I mean, obviously, people don't, you know, wanna hear the
So
facility.
like I said, I mean, we're, it's not a high percentage, and I can't tell you the last project we did at night that wasn't related to government activity, but it's, I can't say that it hasn't happened. So, but
I'm sure it has happened, you know.
Yeah,
We can't be out there watching like a nighthawk all day long following the trucks.
right.
I'd
Like I
rather-
said, I can't tell you off the top of my head the last job that was done that
It's not
wasn't
it's not
related to.
material.
But I just figured I'd bring that up because other people asked, you know, are they doing private work? I said, well, they're not supposed to be doing it. That was an agreement we made years ago. If that agreement's still good, is that a binding thing? A gentleman's agreement? You know, years ago I used to do a job, shake a hand. Today everything's gonna be on this, you know?
That's where we started.
You know, that's the way a gentleman's agreement was an agreement. Your word is as good as gold. You know, if you're telling me that you're gonna do something, and you don't do it, your word is no good to me. So when you look at me and you say, well, we didn't have to do that, but you told me you were gonna do it. So if your word is good, I have no problem with your word. But if your word is no good, you're done in my book. I'm sure you guys feel the same way. Your word is as good as gold. This is years ago, we did agreements. You give a man's word was good. If you back out on it, your word is no good, so I could never trust you again. That's my opinion. I'm from the old school. I do business every day on a handshake.
But they're not violating agreements they didn't know we had. I
No, I'm
get-
just saying,
We get that.
yeah.
You didn't know there's a perception that is, that there's no private work being done, and, you know, we're not saying you were aware of that, but there's a lot of urban legends, I think, with regard to the arrangement between the town and the company, and we're just trying to clean some of that up, I think, so. Thank you.
Joe, you have anything?
No, I was just
Chief?
gonna-
Sock? You're an important man here. You've been on a long time.
We have more fun stuff to talk
Huh?
about here, though.
All right, so we're gonna go to our other stuff here.
These gentlemen all set, can they leave or?
They can stay, or if they can stay, we want them to stay, they can stay, they're welcome to
If
stay.
they like.
Okay, absolutely.
Probably at least stay for the next one,
Yeah.
the draft.
Draft air inspection protocol as developed by Woodward and Curran, review of matters presented, votes may be taken.
So this is something we had talked about the last time too, was coming up with a inspection protocol. to go into the quarry and actually inspect it during, obviously during the season.
Do you gentlemen have a copy of this, though?
Yep, I definitely shipped one out. It's a draft, something that you guys hadn't seen yet, but made sure they got it.
I don't know how many of you guys.
Let me see what version this is.
It's the same one, Nothing. So basically, it was a discussion with the board about what they thought. And with Keating, and then we're going to PJ Keating. So basically, I would say it was modeled after the way that I can best explain it. It was essentially modeled after, something in regards to what DEP would do when they go in there. It's just basically the check on dust, check on, quantity, if you will, that you're moving in and out of there, make sure that you're basically staying within the framework of our bylaws, within the framework of your non-comprehensive approval there from DEP, and that general direction. It's intended to be over the top. It's pretty basic stuff. And more or less to be able to work with you on that. I mean, maybe it would be something that we would work on what we would do during the the summer months, if you will, during your prime season. Whether it be something that we would go in there monthly, we would, go in there, just keeping track of what's going on. Essentially, most of the stuff that you're doing anyways. Make sure that we're familiar with it. This way, we have that was the intent of the new the assistant health agent that would come on. This way, we can stay with our residents that are concerned, consistently show their concern about the quarry operations, especially now with the asphalt plant being moved up front. There's a little bit of uncertainty with that, about how that's going to work out. Hopefully it works out better. But again, just gets us doing one way, or whether we go into the quarry or not, we're going to do something along this line. Whether we're doing it on the outskirts or doing it with you.
Is it fair to say, Joe, it sets an expectation for what our inspectors will be looking for and things you should be anticipating you're going to be looking for? Okay. If there are things that you object to, this is stamped draft still, I believe. If there are things you object to, let's talk about those. But has this been provided previously, or?
Yep, I'd given it to Doug, I think, when we met the last time in November.
Well,
It
says June 2019, revision 0,
Well,
so
when did we meet?
we met before that.
So that, this would have been the final.
Okay.
Well, anyways, maybe I didn't give it to you, but please take it.
No, I think
We talked about it, maybe I was supposed to give it to
Yeah,
you.
with all due
or
respect,
something.
Joe, I think we left it that there were some tweaks to be remained, and that you were gonna provide it to us before you finalized it, which you have.
Which, yeah, absolutely. This is
Yeah, I
not-
don't think we're adopting this tonight.
No, that was not the intent.
So, it's fine, we'll take a read through it, and
Yeah,
Yeah.
please do.
And was this written with, like, the overview of the asphalt plant? Is that
Yeah.
quantities, the equipment that's cited here,
Mhm.
is that the new plant or the old plant?
This is all this information and all that's here, which is absolutely something that we want to talk about, thank you, Chief, on that, is that it is based on the old location. So, I mean, the roadways leading in the back, the asphalt plant in the back. I think that the components will be the same. But the intent of this is to move forward, whether I'm here, you know, the other inspectors here, whoever, move forward into the future so that we don't have to do this, so that we have a standard operating procedure for basically handling PJ Keating instead of the chaos that ensues on a regular basis because of different people coming from different directions, you know, maybe making a complaint about this, maybe there's a concern about that, based on the day, based on the wind, based on the time of the year. We're just trying to reel all that in and have one specific way of handling this so that we can work through it all. Did I answer your question? Basically.
You'll be looking at this.
Yeah, we'll all.
Make some edits.
Yep.
Could you identify the stuff that's changed?
Yeah,
The
sure.
equipment style or consensus? Just so that when we're ready to approve this, it's specific to the new operation.
So I would hope that we would be ready, you know, coming into February, you would say. You know, I think that that's kind of where we want to begin, so that we're ready with you. In that point, this would be revised to show the locations of the newer, with their help, with the new locations.
That it?
That's the dust plan.
Huh?
Keep us focused.
Yep.
Keep on moving.
And then from there, we've, so we've actually got their application in. There was some time there, but we've got their application for you to review. Essentially, it's the new application that we worked on at the last meeting. They've, like I said at the beginning, they provided the check, they provided the application. It's basically for 2019. You review that.
It's October 15th. We'll try to get this on a better schedule going forward, right, all of us?
The check's only good for 90 days.
Make sure you cash it.
We'll get you out of violation.
We're doing better than
Try to
last year.
get you out of
Last year's
violation.
March of 2019.
Yeah.
Yes.
Issued.
You're right.
Takes a long time to get a check out of Keating.
I don't know that was the issue,
But boy, they send their bills the next day.
So one last item, one last thought, as we move forward and look for March or April, that the asphalt plant will come online.
Yeah, it'll be on work. And when you put up a new asphalt plant, it doesn't just press the buttons
Sure.
and have it work
Right.
perfect. So we'll have to spend some time.
Yep.
And that's why.
So we're looking at the spring. So between now and then, could we begin to think of what to do with neighbor complaints? So right now, if it's a dusty day, there's a number to call, and it goes, my understanding, it goes to you, and you all know it. And I've said this to you, and I've said it to these guys, when you're not around, you respond wonderfully. If other businesses in town responded to the complaints that came in as quickly as you do, Jeff, we'd be in a good place. Have you thought out what the scheme is going to be if a neighbor at 11 o'clock at night calls because the asphalt plant is loud? Or at 2 o'clock in the morning because they have a smell, or banging from tailgates, things of that sort? That's a little different than the complaints that I think that you get currently, right?
We do get some of those complaints now, but I think there's probably room for us to just kind of clean up how we address it.
I mean, I wake my colleagues up.
He
if I
fields
can-
the information and
Yeah.
then forwards it, but I think we could kind of revisit that.
And we've got some time to collectively talk about the best mechanism for fielding those calls.
And now, when something comes in on the 24-hour line, it goes to 6 people now. So Rob gets it, Doug gets it, so it's like you can't sleep on it because 6 people came in.
Nobody's sleeping.
Yeah, so it's.
Well, thank you for that. That's great. That's good news, I think. I mean,
Does it ring on phones or
My phone.
rings in? Okay.
And I got Jeff's number, so.
We were afraid that it went to someplace in the Philippines.
No, I think the old system it went to somewhere and then they distributed it. Like they would call me and then if I wasn't available, they would try and call somebody else. This one goes, I get a text and then there's an email and it goes out to 6 people.
You know when that plant starts up, you're gonna get complaints, trust for guaranteed.
Which is something we sat with DEP, with your predecessors about, and scratched our heads, because this is all new, you know, but even though we brought this to the forward and the asphalt plant is going up front, the whole scheme of things that's about to happen is gonna be new to all the residents, to all the people around here. Whether it's better or worse, we're gonna have to deal with it, so, yeah, look forward to seeing how it's all gonna run.
Jeff, are you guys still, on the complaints, are you still notifying this office of the complaints? Did you get any?
The dust complaints.
Any complaint? Dust, odors, noise?
No, I mean, we've had some phone calls on blast, I got on call Joe if we had, that was a really loud blast.
Well, the chief is usually there, aren't you, chief, or one of your men, when they do
Yeah,
blasting?
we get the seismic reports, we do the stop bys for safety purposes.
Okay.
And then we get the seismic report and the video by the end of the day. I think you probably get a phone call Tuesday, I had a couple of phone calls and a couple of people came by to visit. The seismic report showed that it was in compliance.
Yes.
And, as much as I feel for the folks who get shocked by it, believe that it's causing, damage, as I told them, if you've got a car driving fast down the street, it's posted for 40 miles an hour, and please catch me doing 39, there's not anything that can be done. If you catch them doing 41, that's a different story. And you have yet, the blasts have yet to go over the established threshold.
Yes, that's correct.
So, as far as the air concussion, the bang that folks feel, or the vibrations that they feel, is if it's in compliance with the federal standard, it's in compliance, as loud as it may seem.
Weather conditions has a lot to do with it. I mean, it's always something.
Tuesday, we knew it was going to be a lot of weather.
When you get
Because of the
ceilings or
cloud
loads,
Just because
The blasting again tomorrow.
Yep.
Tomorrow it's gonna be overcast and rainy, so again, that air can't just escape, because, the pressure just pushes it back down. So there's a whole bunch of different factors that go into
No,
it.
absolutely. As long as the people out in TV land understand that.
Right, right, and it truly is frustrating when folks call, and,
It's-
this
you
is
tell them
real
it's-
to them.
It's within the range.
This is real to them,
But it blew my
they're
door
concerned.
off my car.
Right.
No, and then we at Offer, CDS, they have portable
Right.
seismographs.
They have
and
two
So they're setting up
permanent.
another one, we got a call Tuesday, so they're
Yep.
setting, Mr. Garden, I forget his last name, but they're
Brookside
setting,
Drive.
they're setting up, one at his house for tomorrow. So that we do offer,
Right.
like, personal monitoring, just to give them some sort of reassurance that, we don't do any more damage than natural settling.
cause you guys got one behind the Berlin Wall, right?
No, towards,
Did they take that one out
towards
on the south
Lawson
side?
and
Lawson
Clifford.
Avenue in the northeast corner.
Yeah, northeast corner.
And then they have a couple of the portables that they can
Yeah.
set
Oh,
up.
the portable's a nice idea, especially
Yeah.
tomorrow, if you're concerned about cloud covers.
And again, that, to their credit, the blaster, when we'll call and say, we receive a phone call complaint in this neighborhood, the next day, he's there in that neighborhood with a portable seismograph, and they'll send that report. It may not even trip the detection
Yeah,
on the seismograph.
good, thank you.
But it's a good response to a
Yeah.
resident's
Well, it
concern.
gets them comfortable as well, that,
Yeah.
that this is not doing damage to my property.
And we've had a third party, somebody I've never hired before, we've tried to find a neutral third party, go set up a completely neutral third party seismograph at other resident's house and just monitor it for this resident, and they felt a little comfortable, but, yeah. It was more comfortable that it wasn't a CDS, it wasn't our contractor doing
Right.
it, so we've taken it to that level as well. Get somebody totally neutral to come over, and we paid for it.
Ed, you wanna move in there?
It is what it is.
Thank you.
Okay, we're all set with this, protocol?
Yeah, so you wanna set a timeline to
Yeah, I mean,
45 days? What do you think?
You want us to submit, like, an established
Or comments on this?
So it's
inspection?
comments on the draft.
Oh,
On the protocol, the inspection protocol. And our intention would be, again, to, I think we talked about that maybe more or less when we met, not necessarily had that we wanna do this with you guys, you know, we wanna be able to go in there, be planned to go in there, you know, within reason, you know, just go in there, go through the inspection process on a regular basis. And like I said, I think the way that we felt that out is it's really not anything different than DEP would do, it's just that we would be in there on a regular basis, you know, making sure that we had answers, or we had answers when our residents call us about what's going on, or we're there to see a pattern and maybe provide solutions, you know. We're gonna be looking at it from a different perspective.
okay.
You know, and then we always have the answers. When we get our phone calls, we do. And it would be, and honestly, the expectation for our other agent would be to be there at night too, you know, at some particular point in time. To work that out where it would be spot checks, to be honest with you. We do get the gates slamming, we do get the complaints, you guys know about that at night, so we wanna be out there then and kind of feel it out. You know, whether we're out in the neighborhoods or whether we're out at the quarry while it's running. I think you're gonna have a little bit different situation now with the plant up in the front in regards to how you're moving traffic around, which is something that we're kinda interested in seeing too. When you're cranking down 195, how the trucks are coming in, coming out, you know, are you staging them all right? This has always been a concern of this board's concern of the Board of Health, you know, the building department. You're gonna be able to fit all those trucks in there at the same time, or they're gonna be sitting in there idling? You're much closer to the residents.
Well, DOT
Homes
says
that
that
were
they
in the
can't
back.
sit there idling no more than 5 minutes. They're supposed to shut down, you're not supposed to leave your trucks running at idle for more than 5 minutes. That's not my
But-
regulation.
Yeah.
But some of these guys have to push their trucks to get them going. You know, so,
That's,
So how long
Part
are
of
we
the
gonna
fun.
give, what's a fair amount of time for review and comment?
Next week, good?
Yeah, well, of course. What do you think about it?
No, no, 30 days.
That's quicker. yeah,
that's
we'll-
fair enough. I would think. 30 days.
That's quick. That might be too quick, but, oh.
what
We'll
we'll
ask for
do,
an
30 days.
extension.
We'll try to work out
That's,
tonight.
30 days goes quick.
Yeah, it really does.
Yeah.
I mean, don't forget, these guys gotta go through a different chain of commands too.
Yeah, no, I'm
You
gonna
gotta
see,
see their
maybe we
bosses.
can work out tonight before we leave, the next meeting.
I think
And
30
just
days
set
is
it
fair.
now.
Yeah, why don't we do
This
that?
way, we lock all ourselves in.
Well, he mentioned 30 days, we'll put him up to the 30 days, right?
About March.
Sometimes.
30 days from today?
Yeah, I got a calendar, what do you want? Today
So, I
is,
mean, 30 days from today, you're running into almost
Thanksgiving.
Yep.
Forget about another 3 weeks.
So,
Couple weeks in
today
December.
is
What day's today? Tuesday, Wednesday?
That's
November.
Yeah,
I
Joe,
don't-
don't get mixed up.
Our next
December 4th or
zoning
11th.
board meeting is in 3 months.
Oops.
So I don't know when it is.
No, I mean, that's, we usually have it,
Have what?
unless you guys wanna have an earlier one.
Earlier, yeah. I mean, I think there's some stuff here that we really wanna wrap up by the end of the year, so.
December 4, December 11?
Yeah, we can go December.
Pop that up.
Yeah,
Go to the next one.
yeah. I think that's reasonable, 4th or the 11th.
4th is 7, the 4th is 7 weeks.
Yeah, I my turkey digested by then, so I'll be all set.
I'll do that, 4th, December 4th?
4th or 11th,
You guys tell me what you want, I can be anytime.
Wednesday isn't gonna be a problem. I mean, let's do the 4th or 11th. You wanna, just. are
Well,
you
why don't
sure
we
now?
call everybody, and if they can do it for the 4th, we'll be here for the 4th, if not, do it for the
Well, they're
11th.
here now and they have their plans, so,
Okay.
planners.
Alright, so
Do you
we,
wanna double check with your schedules?
no, so we'll commit to written comments on the Woodward and Curran suggestions by 11/16. So you'll have those back, and that could be an agenda item for 12,
11/16, okay.
right?
All right, I mean, you say 30 days, but I mean, ultimately, We wanna have, yeah, that works good. yeah.
And we, I mean, the other,
It's 30 days.
some of the other topics we talked about, we'd like to try to advance those as well. So
Okay.
I don't know if we need to necessarily get that done on December 4th, but
Well, we can also commit to putting together a complaints protocol that we can provide as well. That's something that you wanted. So we can do those two things and get that out of the way.
On December 4th, right?
on December 4th.
Okay.
Yep, we'll
6
try,
o'clock, what, 6 o'clock, right?
Yeah.
but we can get a complaints protocol together. You know, we do have a fairly decent complaints protocol that I think is
It's already in place.
that's been advanced internally, you know, as well, that hasn't been provided to you all, so I think that's something. So if we get the, review the inspection protocol and the complaints protocol both by 11/16/19, those can be discussion points on 12/4. I think that as far as the decommissioning, costing and planning and whatnot, I still personally, I think that's a complicated issue. And if we can talk with our insurance agency and our bonding agency, that's fine.
Update us on December 4th, as to what a realistic timeline to get that resolved.
Okay, and if you as well are going to be talking
We're going
to
to
your
KP, right?
town council, Copeland and Page, and they have any suggestions on what they might want, that would be helpful to set us in the right
We'll
direction.
take the bond to KP, all the bond materials to KP.
Yeah, I think, we'll work, we can, please, just
Yeah,
continue to talk throughout the month there and make sure that we kind of
yeah.
get where we gotta go.
And just the last thing, just for our own edification, Copeland Page, you said, had written a finding, for the lack of a better word, on how the towns,
So originally, when we were, yeah, so and I'll work on that too. Originally, there was a look at on how we needed to look at regulating you. You know, more so from the Board of Health side, which you fall into a bunch of different sides on that side, or because we specifically have a soil conservation board bylaw, does that come first? And it was determined that that bylaw came first, and then the Board of Health. I mean, the Board of Health has its usual business, there's no doubt, but that's why we go through this.
I think there was a determination, there was,
I don't know.
the confusion was whether or not you all were grandfathered with the soil bylaw or not. And I think there'd been some belief that you were grandfathered, that it didn't apply to you. And I think we got a letter saying that based on something that had happened, that made it applicable to PJ Keating. And I don't remember what that trigger event was, but
The trigger
there
was
there
that
a
bond.
trigger event.
The trigger was that memorandum of agreement, so there was a, yes, that coming back, yes,
Understanding.
the understanding. So that was brought to Copeland and Page, and Copeland and Page, as I'm starting to remember here, did not necessarily agree with that. They felt that you fell neatly into our bylaw,
Okay.
whereas that kind of says that you don't. But you will agree to do what you can. You know, it is.
Mhm.
Whereas it, rather than this is bylaw, so that, we can find that.
Yeah, that'd be great. I mean, it's not that we're necessarily gonna argue with the findings or anything like that, but I think it's appropriate that our own council has an opportunity to look at it as well.
Sure, yep. And
Um,
I really honestly think that it was done at one.
It may well have been,
point.
Joe, but-
let's get it all freshened up again.
And then, so this documentation here, soil board and the citing of DEP regulations and condition for soil removal permit, all of that has been passed as the bylaw now?
So that is what we've been working on. That's not the bylaw, that's the permit or the requirements of the permit. So as we've moved, so that's why it was in the application. Okay, the permit itself will have to be signed by the select board, the way our bylaw is. The application's gonna be signed by the soil board, okay, basically approving it, then we send it down to the selectmen, and the selectmen basically have the final approval. But the intent is the soil board, which is this branch of the select board, approve it, that the selectmen would too. But that's the way the bylaws work. It goes back and forth between the soil board, the soil conservation board, and the select board. So, this being approved tonight, that we have that, you sent it in, it's signed by you. That information that's on the permit is the same information that's on the application. That was discussed at the March meeting about how that was gonna get modified, so that that's all part of everything else that goes down. So, everything that goes down, so the areas in this, the appendices are all the different things that we've been involved in this whole 2-year period coming to this point. Whereas it was kinda 2 years ago when you were moving the asphalt plant, it all started back when, BJ Keating came in front of the residents and said that you guys were awesome neighbors. And the neighbors changed that. So, it's come a long way, you guys have been awesome, I mean, we've been moving in the right direction, but we've been moving towards this since that point to come up with all of the information that has been here over the past 30 or 40 years, and really it's there, but it's just all so spread out to come up with a plan, a very clear course of action, something that can be from this date, move forward, this is what we do, this is how we do it, and you know, not have to worry about, you know, pulling all these pieces together again, so
Yeah,
it's all fresh and new, and this is all the stuff, this is all, if you look at that, that's, the terminology there is right out of your permits,
I agree.
right out, so it's nothing strange, it's just you're agreeing, this is what we know that we have to stand by, this is what you have to stand by, this is what we're looking to regulate, you know, as we go forward, and you're just agreeing to it, which is everything.
Right, I think that it's like, you know, the understanding being that since DEP is cited, then we're really going back to what DEP considers to be air pollution or
Right.
nuisance or
Really?
whatever the definitions may be.
That's what the particulate matter plan that was created, that ultimately came out of you guys, you know, with work from us. That is part of this inspection. You guys have agreed to follow that, which is not anything unusual for your business. I mean, that's what you're regulated under. It's just, it's more or less the contract with us too, you know, and just saying, these are the way that we're looking at things.
Yes.
So, it should all, when it's all said and done, this should be the nice, neat package that will move on into the next 80 years, we hope. You know?
No changes.
Well,
No, thank you very much.
We all set?
We got one more thing, right?
you just gotta sign your application. Other than that,
Yeah,
That's-
it's a
that's the end.
2019 soil removal permit application, PJ Keating, 72 South Main Street, review of matters presented, votes may be taken. So it's up to the board, if you wanna
vote to approve the 2019
come,
soil board permit for.
motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes. Gonna get your permit.
Not today.
Not today, though. Poor girl's got to work here for the next 2 months doing minutes. And approved soil board minutes, they're not done yet. They're quite a long minutes to be done. Like this one here is gonna take Wanda a long time to do these minutes, I'll tell you, look at. So, plus what's on there. So, postpone the minutes to the next meeting. Let's see what else we got here. Schedule the next meeting.
December 4th, right?
December 4th,
Right.
that's all set. What's that? Okay, we got an invoice here to approve.
Wanda, you'll let Julie and Dan know about the due date for next month.
Okay, this is approval for Woodward and Curran, $6,000. Motion to accept.
Motion.
Motion.
All in favor?
Second.
Aye.
Motion passes. that all we got to sign one. That's it.
These gentlemen all set there?
They're all set, they can sit here till we adjourn if they like.
I know they'd
Thank you all very much.
listen to more stuff.
Thank you.
Oh, yeah, I appreciate that.
Thank you. Nice meeting you.
See you again. Always.
Thank you.
I'll probably see you tomorrow.
Not if it rains.
Yeah, thank you, Mr. Chairman.
Thank
you for everything.
Yeah.
Seismic graph.
Bye, Wanda.
Keep us
Take care,
sane.
thank you.
Thank you very much.
Bye, Roger.
Nice meeting you.
Yeah, Jeff.
Be good.
Thank you very much.
Nice meeting you. I'm coming to see you.
Oh, all right. When you coming?
Okay, can we get a motion to adjourn?
Make a motion to adjourn.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
Motion passes to adjourn. It's 7:55.